Hi. I guess we're going to start. Catherine's not here today, so I'll be Catherine and me. So thank you for coming. My name is Erin Dionne. I'm a professor here at the college. Happy to see so many familiar faces and some new faces here. I'm going to give a talk about my sabbatical. I wasn't here in the fall, and sabbatical is, I think, something that really everybody in any industry should be able to do, because it gives you some time to focus on enriching yourself in other ways from, and then as faculty members, we can bring what we do on sabbatical back into the classroom. And so I thought today I would kind of talk about what I did on my semester off, but also sabbatical is really weird, because when people ask you and you tell them that you're on sabbatical, you get some very strange reactions. And so that's kind of how I'm going to frame and explore my conversation with you today. So when you get sabbatical and you find out that you're going to be not teaching for a semester, it's super exciting. And so these are the things that you think. I have so much time. Oh my gosh, I have a whole semester off. I can do so many things while I'm not teaching. I can finish every project I've ever started in my life, and I can finally clean out the closet in my upstairs hallway. I found out that I was going on sabbatical in June, and 2 days, and so I had all these thoughts. I had like a good 24 hours of like, woo, celebration and thinking. And then my husband got super sick with Lyme disease. So sabbatical did not start off as a party. But what also happens is I started telling people, right, that I'm not going to be teaching in the fall. And like I said, they have these kind of funny reactions. And so I put them together in this format from a meme that went around a little while ago. Oh, there's reality is another story. So sabbatical, you get all of these impressions, right? So we're going to go through each of these impressions that people have and then what reality actually is. So when I told my friends that I was going on sabbatical, this is kind of what they thought that I was going to be doing: day drinking at the beach for months. Have tons of free time to go out to lunch and, just live the good life, right? What I actually ended up doing was planning. Because when you have such a big stretch of time, if you don't actually figure out what you're going to do with it, you will fritter it away. And so that stretch of time, actually at the end of the semester, before I actually knew that I was officially going to be away, I started thinking about, okay, what does my summer look like? And then if I do end up going on sabbatical in the fall, what does that look like? And so that for me looks like a lot of lists. I started making lists of projects, writing projects, because that's my passion, that's where my creativity lies. And then I did something that I probably always should have done, but didn't actually do until this year, which is I made what I call a heat map, where I literally color coded every month, and this is you're looking at the fall, whereas to how busy or stressful things would be, and some things that I knew were happening. So if it's yellow, like green was the best, right? Green was like July. Yellow means things start to get a little bit busier. I do have 2 kids, and my oldest is a senior in high school this year, so a lot of college stuff got folded into this. Red was really busy, and then obviously you see I come back in January. So I had my list, I had my heat map, and then I decided I also needed to make a spreadsheet. I am not a spreadsheet person. I am now. I am a spreadsheet person now, and I kind of hate it. So I have lots of different components to my creative life outside of teaching. I write books for kids, Erin Dionne books. Mina Allen is my pseudonym. I write cozy mysteries for adults. I actually am also a freelance editor, so I have that. I decided last year that why not learn how to write movies? So I'm writing movies, so I have to kind of track that. And I belong to a publishing collective that is part of my critique group. So I have responsibilities in that area. So that gets a spreadsheet. And what I did, and I've continued this, over here is the day of the week, over here is the date, and then what I have to do that day for each persona or category. I also tried to organize stuff that I had to do by different aspects of my business, my website updates, school and library visits, things like that. So less day drinking by the beach, more sitting in front of Excel or Google Sheets. When you're a writer, other people, your friends, your family, society in general thinks it's super glamorous, right? Thinks that you're like going to parties all the time. This was from 2014. That was the last time I wore a dress like that. I had one glamorous moment 12 years ago when my book got nominated for an Edgar. But instead, what I actually end up doing a lot is sales as a writer. Things I never expected to say. So one of the things that I did on my sabbatical, and as a writer does, is I have to get out there and I have to talk about my books in all different ways. So I experimented a little bit this summer and fall. I went to a farmer's market in my hometown. I want to get more connected with my community, so I set up tables at my local farmer's market. I also do festivals and book events in other areas. So I was at the Poughkeepsie Children's Book Festival. I'm going to be there again in a couple of weeks. I did a spooktastic book fair in Framingham. I did the Newtonville Book Festival, which is what that picture's from. I ended up on the news. And so I had to spend a lot of time out and about kind of talking about the work that I do. I also do school visits. So I went to New York. I do school visits in Massachusetts. I also do events at bookstores. So I had 3 or 4 bookstore events where I was reading and signing or doing a story time, talking to kids about the books that I write. So that, again, less glamorous parties, more kind of sweating at the farmer's market, and talking to kids about books, which is still fun. What my colleagues think I'll do, Martha, I'm sure, right? Sit around and sign books, right? No. A little bit at some of those events, yeah, I do sign books. But what I ended up doing, quite a lot of, is actually teaching on sabbatical. Womp womp. I love talking about the work that I do. I love working with other writers. I'm a teacher by nature, right? That's what I do when I'm here. So that is also what I do when I'm not here. I look for opportunities where I can share what I've learned about all aspects of the writing process, whether that's anything from drafting a book to one of the things that I'm now involved in is this lawsuit against Anthropic AI. There's a massive class action lawsuit of thousands of writers whose books were stolen, they were pirated, and fed to Anthropic AI's large language learning machine. And here's where Martha can actually probably fill in more than I can, but Anthropic purchased a whole bunch of books and fed it to the machine. And then they were like, why do we want to buy them when we can download books from all these pirated sites that are already out there? So they stopped buying the books and instead they went to the pirated websites and downloaded them and fed them. And a bunch of authors spearheaded the lawsuit. Paul Tremblay, who lives here in Massachusetts, Stephen King, John Grisham, big names. they sued Anthropic AI for use of their work without permission. And the way that the ruling came down was really interesting. It was, all the books that Anthropic bought and put in the machine were fine because they purchased them and everybody got compensation. The ones that were pirated are the problem, right? All the ones that they downloaded from the pirated sites and fed to the machine. So the judge ruled that that was violation of copyright. So now there are thousands of authors who are named in this lawsuit, and I have 6 books that were actually pirated and fed to the machine. So I've been learning a lot about copyright and that, and then also how to get your rights back from your publisher when your book goes out of print, so that you can kind of have your own intellectual property in one place. Kind of like Taylor Swift. I am the Taylor Swift of children's publishing. So I've been learning about that, and I'm trying to actually teach other authors how to get their rights back, how to reissue their own books. My friend Nancy Werlin, who's a New York Times bestseller, and we write together on most Sundays, and so she and I have been doing these webinars at different organizations talking about some of this stuff. I also really love story structure, so I've been giving talks about that as well. So I ended up doing a lot of teaching. There's an organization here in Massachusetts called the Writers Loft that I did some teaching at. There's a new organization, new to me, called Whale Rock Writers that I talked about story structure, and I'm doing some more stuff with them this year. How many of you read Highlights magazine when you were a kid? So Highlights magazine is actually run by a family that has tons of property in Pennsylvania. That was a farm, and now it is a space for creatives to go and do work. Authors, illustrators, any kind of creatives can go to this magical place, rent a cabin, and do work and write and make art. And they also run courses. So I teach through the Highlights Foundation. And then I've done some workshops through other places. So as much as I did not think I would be teaching on Sabbatical, I actually taught quite a bit. What my boss thinks I do, Stacy's not here, so we'll use Brian. Perhaps envisioning me spending a lot of time on my deck, getting some writing done. I wish my backyard looked like this right now. It does not. What I actually ended up doing was a lot of editing. As I said at the beginning, how I have that spreadsheet with all those different facets of my life, I do help clients with their work. It's another way, kind of like working with students, but beginning writers. So I have consultation and coaching clients that I work with, and then I actually freelance through a website called readsy.com, where there's a lot of publishing professionals. And so I ended up helping a lot of other people work on the books that they were excited about, which is really gratifying. So I ended up doing 40 client projects while I was on sabbatical, and they range really widely. People writing picture books for little kids, middle grade, which is for 8 to 12-year-olds, young adult, which is 14 and up, query letters for people who are trying to get an agent and get into publishing, and then I worked on one novel for adults, it always is awkward when I say it that way. Not that kind of adult novel. But one of the things that editing gives me as a creative person is it gives me the opportunity to build skills on, that I can then take back to my own work. So, when I'm helping somebody else figure out a problem with their story structure or, why their character motivation isn't working on the page, then when I go back and look at my stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, I did that too. So it's good for me, it's good for them. And I really love it. What I think that I would do on sabbatical, I thought this will be great. I'll have time to read, I'll have time to create, I'll make some notes for some new projects. I had a lot of big ideas. what I ended up doing a lot of was learning. As much as I am a teacher, I also am a super nerd who likes to learn things. And so I could not put that on hold while I was on sabbatical, so I ended up taking a lot of classes. As I mentioned at the very beginning, I have sort of fallen into writing Hallmark Christmas movies. Not something that I've ever been interested in, not something that I've ever really watched. But 2024, when I was here, I was teaching script writing, and I had a friend who also writes children's books who had written and sold a Hallmark Christmas movie. And she came to my class via Zoom and talked to my students, and we had such a great time. And her movie was on Hallmark, and we had a watch party here at Montserrat. The students loved it. We had a great time. And she said to me, "You should totally try this, Erin. It's like writing middle grade for adults." And I was like, no. And then she told me she was teaching a class, or she was going to be a guest at a class. This is still back in 2024. Somehow, you know, these things carry over. And so I went to her class, and it was just so fun. It was like stupid fun. I had not had that much fun writing in a long time, trying something new, trying a new format, learning. And then Hallmark Christmas movies, they're so happy. I'd never watched them before. They're just soothing and happy and sweet. So I started writing Hallmark Christmas movies, and I have two friends who ended up in the class with me, and now we're learning all about Hollywood and how you pitch movies and meeting with producers. So I ended up taking classes through this organization called Roadmap Writers, and having producers and people look at my stories, at my movies. Nothing sold yet, I'll tell you. I took classes in cozy mysteries because I write cozy mysteries. There's this Publishing Freedom Collective, a friend of mine who is a very successful indie publisher. She has this monthly webinar that I belong to, this group, where she talks about, you know, all aspects of publishing your work independently. So I'm learning about that. I'm learning about, you know, everything related to Amazon and like how does that work with ads. Learning about the Anthropic lawsuit, sitting through some webinars about the class action lawsuit that I'm a part of. And I went to the New England Crime Bake Conference, which is what the New England chapter of the Mystery Writers of America call their conference. Where was that crime scene picture from the very, very beginning of the slideshow? And that's an opportunity to be with other people who write mysteries and learn all these things about craft. They set up a fake crime scene, and they have a forensic expert come in and walk people through how all of that works in terms of police procedure. And conveniently, the keynote for that talk was Anthony Amore, who was the head of security at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. Today is the 35th anniversary of the theft of $1 billion worth of art from the Gardner in 36th, because 1990. And years ago, I wrote a book about the Gardner heist for kids. And so I've met with Anthony a couple of times, and it was fun to see him again at the conference. They're still looking for the Gardner art. They still think that they'll find it. I really hope that they do. Okay, so what I actually do on sabbatical feels like spinning plates, juggling, flaming bowling pins, right? As all of these other things are happening. I had a life too. I do have two kids. They were in jail. No, we went to California on vacation and visited Alcatraz. I went on writing retreats. I had opportunity to go to Lake Champlain. I was up in Gloucester. I also did another writing retreat in Vermont where I had dedicated days where I could actually sit and work on the various projects. I went to book events for friends. Julie Berry's book, If Looks Could Kill, which is Jack the Ripper meets Medusa, because being involved in the community and supporting other writers is really important. I went on fun day trips, Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I saw Hosier at Fenway, which was really great. And back all the way at the beginning of this slide deck, I have a kid. My daughter is a senior in high school this year, so feeding in with that whole idea of learning and teaching and being free, I ran college essay application boot camp for her and her friends, and reviewed all of their application essays in August. So I did the boot camp for 12 kids, and let me tell you, there were a lot of deadlines in December that I got application essays to critique. I went on those writing retreats. I have a group that I meet with regularly that talks about our newsletters as writers that we send out about the work that we do. So I had meetings with my newsletter group. I meet with my Hallmark critique partners every week. I have my regular writing group, and we meet twice a month. So I would meet with them. I started a Substack. See that newsletter group up there? We all moved over to Substack because that's where everybody is right now. I created a team to support my mystery novels when advanced copies come out, to kind of create some buzz. So an ARC team or a street team. So kind of collecting people through my newsletter who would be interested in that, and learning how I could best deploy people to drum up some interest back to the sales part of the mysteries. I submitted one flash fiction piece for publication. And I got to do some other fun things in my children's book life. Like I got to judge the Massachusetts Reading Association bookmark competition, where kids in elementary through high school do designs for a bookmark that will then be distributed to school libraries across the state. So it was really fun to get to judge that. It was hard, man. They did some good work. I'm presenting at the Massachusetts Reading Conference in April, but I had to submit for that in the fall, so I'm excited to do that in a couple of weeks. Like I said, we went to California, and I helped my kid apply to 9 colleges, and she got into all of them, and now we're trying to make a decision. So it was pretty busy. I also wrote. I did. So Mina Allen, who writes cozy mysteries for grown-ups, Mina finished, edited, and released Chowder and Chicanery. It had been like half done. I hadn't had a chance to finish that. And then I wrote, or Mina wrote and released Fireworks and Felonies in November. Mina did a lot of work on a short story collection called A Collection of Crimes, which comes out next Tuesday. I have to finish some edits on that. That critique group that I'm a part of that meets twice a month, we had released our first anthology before I went on sabbatical, and then right as sabbatical started, we did an online Zoom release party for it. Up there, my half-finished 2 Christmas movies, a mom-com and a rom-com. And then the other day, we were talking about that Anthropic stuff, I just re-released Lights, Camera, Disaster. This is a book that I actually wrote that was inspired by my Montserrat students, and it came out in 2018. And it had sort of a sad little life, because between the pandemic and the imprint at Scholastic that published it went out of business. It closed, and the editor who was running the imprint actually opened his own publishing company. So the book didn't get a whole lot of support, and it went out of print pretty quickly. So I got the rights back, and I just re-released it. This is a brand new cover. So I'm super excited to have that back. So I did get some writing done while I was on sabbatical as well. However, I never did clean out the upstairs closet, so that's still on the list. So yeah, that was what I did on my sabbatical for fall of 2025. Happy to answer questions about anything. If anybody has any, yeah.
When did you sleep?
That was not on my spreadsheet. No, it was busy, right? It was busy. But, I was the thing that I think for me is really important is I was able to stay focused. Stuff waxed and waned. I built in time to go on vacation. I built in, based on that heat map, when I knew things would be busy, I actually was like, okay, maybe that's not the month that I can do, write a new book, right? So I tried this time, and I feel like it actually worked out pretty well to make adjustments based on reality, as opposed to like what I thought that I could get done. And then I ended up getting it done more than I expected. Like putting this together, I was like, damn, I did all right.
That was indeed impressive.
I did do some work on my deck, Brian, I will say.
But my question, actually, just the last part you were talking about buying back the rights to books. Did you buy back the rights to that whole first series of those books?
So, I don't have to buy them, which is good. And I can, I don't know if I have a good slide for it, but anyway. So what you have to do, there's this whole process where, hi.
The food? Yeah.
Oh,
Food?
yeah. Okay. I had to send a letter to my publisher and ask for the rights back. In a publishing contract, they give you a threshold. They'll say, depending on, sometimes it's sales numbers, like, if it sells less than $500, or if it sells less than 500 copies, right? Then for a certain period of time, 6 months or 1 year, depending on the publisher, then the book is classified as out of print. But what happens in reality is the publisher will stop printing the paperback and hardcover, but they will continue to sell the ebook. And ebooks make a much higher profit for the publisher and for the writer than does the paperback. So basically, as it's my responsibility for my intellectual property, I send a letter to the publisher and say, hey, according to the terms of the contract, this book has been, out of print. I would like my rights reverted and all versions taken down. They're still allowed to sell their leftover stock of the paperback and hardcover, which is fine, but they are no longer allowed to sell the ebook. They send me a letter back that I have to sign, that they have to sign. And what was really cool about the Scholastic one, because I was a little nervous about doing this, I thought, like, am I gonna get in trouble? And then it also felt weird, like, I'd worked so hard to get this book published, and now I'm taking it away from the publisher. But what I kind of learned instead is like, it's got an opportunity for a different life, which is really exciting. And they were totally fine with it. Not only did they send the book back, they sent all the files, the PDF, they sent me the jacket, the case, the hard case, which had a design on it. They sent me the cover files, and they were like, you can still use all of this as long as you take the Scholastic branding off it. I opted to do a new cover with a cover designer that I work with because I wanted it to be a little more contemporary. And it even said, when you release your own version, I was like, okay, like I've got permission. On all fronts, right? So that was kind of a surprise. And so I have Lights back, and then I have 3 other books back that are out of print that I will be re-releasing over the next year. So my book about the Gardner heist is still in print. That one's still kicking.
That's actually surprisingly colorful, given sort of structure. So, yeah, it's nice.
And what was also because of that whole Anthropic suit, so any book that the publisher still has rights to, like my book Moxie and the Art of Rule Breaking, which is the Gardner one, when the Anthropic settlement comes down, right now they're saying it's $3,000 a book. Whether it ends up being that or not remains to be seen, but we'll use that as a round number. So what will happen is the publisher will get $1,500 and I will get $1,500 if they still own the rights. And I'm like, but they didn't steal it. I mean, I guess they kind of stole it from you, but they really stole it from me. So any book that I have the rights back to, I get the whole settlement. So there has been that's why Nancy and I have been doing this big push to get people to get their rights back, because books can be out of print, the publishers aren't doing anything with them, they're not selling them, and they're gonna reap the benefits of, that settlement. So it's really been an eye-opener, and I found it to be like really empowering and really fun to, give these books another life.
So about the language learning models, do they have to sort of take those offline and redo them without copyrighted work? Or
No,
it's just like too late?
It's too late.
You got it in the...
Yeah, cat's out of the bag.
Okay, that's too bad.
Yeah. So, yeah, any other questions? Awesome. Time for pizza. I'm happy to answer questions, as you snack. Thank you for coming. This was fun.